Good morning, everybody. My name is Coy Rosen, and you're listening to the Story Podcast. Today, I have on a super awesome guest, Mr. Peter Mastropietro. Born and raised in Westchester County, just north of New York City, Peter now resides in Lancaster County PA. He is the owner of Mastro Music, a booking agency which he founded in 2015. In addition, Peter is also the drummer slash percussionist for All Weather Band, an Americana blues roots swing band, and Tropical Sunz, a Hawaiian slash Jamaican band. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Corey. Thanks for inviting me over. This is exciting, and I think we can get into some interesting things to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
So, what was it as a kid, as an adult, that got you really into music?
Well, this goes back a long way, but I think the first time I heard Elvis Presley, he was singing something probably like Jailhouse Rock, and I think it just kind of flipped me out as a 5-year-old or whatever I was at that time. And I started getting into, my older brothers who would come home with music and play music and so forth. And eventually, when I was in high school, I started playing with bands that were, playing at our school gyms and so forth, and parties and whatnot. And at the time, I played keyboards. I played what was known as a farfisa compact organ, also known as a farchiza, because it had that real cheesy sound that people my age and my generation would remember. So I played music basically based on what I heard on the radio, and got into it. My dad was a classically trained musician, and he started giving me piano lessons as a kid, and I enjoyed it. And then one day I heard Louie Louie. I don't know if you know the song. Anybody knows the song Louie Louie? It's your basic 3-chord rock song, which is a great song, and they're still playing it. And so I figured out how to play that, and all of a sudden, I stopped thinking about reading music and practicing reading music, and just started figuring out pop and rock songs that I could do on the piano, that sort of thing. And then I got involved with bands and so forth, and had a great time entertaining. And I got the bug for kind of playing for people, performing, and watching people have a good time, dance, and really enjoying the music. And I still do that to this day. I also, when I was in high school, I performed in high school musicals and so forth, all that kind of stuff. And I was one of those weird guys who was in band, men's chorus, high school musicals, and played football. So it was a real, in those days, that was well, you don't do all that stuff, do you? But,
No.
So, but then after high school, went to school, and my first job out of college was selling advertising for a local radio station up in Westchester County, and it was what was called progressive rock. In those days, it was the disc jockeys would be able to play whatever they wanted. There were no playlists at this particular station, and I got great exposure to all kinds of music and all kinds of interesting people. And some of the disc jockeys went on to do really big things from this small market station. They just kind of went into big areas, big markets and so forth, and they're still at it today. But at the same time, when I was finding out that my real calling as a career is sales and meeting people, talking to people, and engaging, creating relationships and so forth, and trying to create commerce for myself by doing that. At the same time, I met, when I was working at this radio station, WRNW, Progressive Rock from the Woods, it was called. Great station. But so I met people who would come up to the station. They were known in those days as promo men. They'd come in with piles of records and go and, talk to the DJs, say, hey, here's the newest Santana album. Here's a new album by whoever, whatever. They had albums coming out every week. There were new albums coming out. And I got to know these guys, and they were, we got along well. We'd go out, they'd take out the DJs, go partying and so forth, and it was just part of the culture of those days. It was kind of you're going to be my friend, and you're going to play my records when I come in, and that's kind of thing it was. And it wasn't like payola. It was more like just being friends with guys and introducing new acts and new records to the audience. So after that, I got kind of involved with, I was thinking, once I got out of selling radio advertising, I wanted to go into the record business at some capacity. And after a little while, I did end up getting involved with a record company that produced not really music, but spoken word recordings. It was a company called Cadman. And they were the very first company that would create spoken word recordings.
Wow.
And it started actually in the 50s. Their very first recording was called A Child's Christmas in Wales, which was recited by Dylan Thomas, who wrote it. He was a poet from Wales, and he came to New York and, would do coffee houses and different recitals that he would do. And then his career was cut short by drink. He just had too much of it. But anyway, this company, Cadman, so I got the chance, again, being a sales rep, and I worked in Manhattan and eventually expanded into New England and the Mid-Atlantic states. And then this company also had started a line of classical records, which was more what I wanted to get into, because at least it was music that I could expand where I could go and who I could talk to, because I was the spoken word stuff did great in like bookstores, because people would go in and want to see, they'd want to get an original soundtrack to a Broadway play or whatever, and this is what Cadman did. You could get poetry on recording by Robert Frost or Carl Sandburg, or you name it. Any American or English poet or author, they came in and did recordings of their work. J.R.R. Tolkien did The Hobbit for them.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So those were big sellers. So, that was really interesting. And that was in the late 70s, early 80s. I spent a lot of time in New York City. The office for Cadman was on 34th and 8th Avenue, which is, in those days, was a pretty interesting neighborhood. I mean, you'd see everything from millionaires to junkies to prostitutes walking up and down that street. It was just a big mix of all kinds of things. And eventually, we moved from New York area down to Lancaster. That was in 1987. New York was getting a little rough for what I wanted to do, so came down here. Long story short, raised the three kids who are, one was a musician. He had a band here. He used to play in Lancaster, and the kids have kind of spread out now, but after a while, exactly about 11 years ago, my wife bought me a set of drums, and I figured, wow, okay, because I should go back. When I was growing up in Westchester, one of my brothers was a drummer, so there was always a set of drums in the house. So I got to, play a little bit. But anyway, I had this set of drums, and and I hadn't touched drums in so long, so I had a friend of mine he's a teacher, and he taught me certain rudiments and aspects of drumming and so forth, and that was really fantastic. His name is Don Billett, and he was in Lancaster. He's moved to Nashville, and he does different studio work and touring and so forth. He's really fantastic. So he helped me get started in playing drums, and it was like did that, and then I got into a band called the Men from Tolex. That was the first band I got into here in Lancaster. And the Men from Tolex was a surf rock band, and surf rock meaning things like Walk, Don't Run, Wipe Out, famous songs that were it's like a Southern California kind of like sound.
The Beach Boys.
Well, without the vocals. No vocals. It's all instrumental with, Stratocasters with super reverbs and stuff, like a lot of reverb. And so it's called, the genre is called surf rock. That's what it is. So it's a lot of loud, and it was a great way to get started in drumming and playing it, because you could play as loud as you wanted. Since there were no vocals, you had to, and that was fun. And then, so I was doing that for a while, and I became the guy who was booking the gigs for this band, and was doing that for a while. And then I decided to start a website and for this band, and that kind of evolved into mastromusic.com, my booking agency. And what happened was I followed an ad up on Craigslist for a band that was looking for a manager, and they were called the Cavern Club. And the Cavern Club was a Beatle tribute band. Really, really good band, and they were very popular because the Beatles are still hot, and still gigantic. So I said, all right. So meanwhile, I was playing, but the Cavern Club was opening doors for me to really get into venues and clubs because they were very popular. And then, as the Cavern Club got better, I found other musicians that I would represent or manage, depending on what the situation was. And it's sort of, if that Master of Music evolved into what it is now, where I don't really manage bands anymore, except for the bands that I'm in. I do to a certain degree. But more represent bands as a freelancer. I get calls for somebody who says, "Hey, I need a band for my wedding. What can you do for me?" Or I need a party, And I also talk to all the local venues all around Lancaster and Lancaster County mostly. Sometimes in Dauphin County. So that's what I do now. I spend my time working with venues and getting some of these bands, getting exposure for them, trying to get a decent pay for them. I mean, that's another whole part of the picture, and we can get into that as far as compensation for bands and so forth. But so that's what I do now, and it's a lot of fun. And one of the things I do have a couple of one really good relationship with a place called Cherry Crest Adventure Farm. It's out near Strasburg, and I book all the bands for this place. They have bands starting yesterday up until the early November. So there's about 15 bands that I've set up with there, and that's fun. It's kind of like an ongoing thing. Every year I get to do that, and as we've talked about, this year I'm working with the Capona Festival, which is coming up over Labor Day. I've got 17 bands booked for that, and over 3 days, and that was a lot of fun. It was challenging to get everybody who could make it, because Labor Day weekend is typically a busy day for all bands. So
Yeah.
You want to be working that day. It's not quite New Year's Eve working, but most bands are busy and so forth. So I was able to get a good lineup for one of the stages at Capona, and I'm really excited to have that happen. And I'll be managing the stage and making sure everything goes smooth, and take care of all the the bumps in the road I'm sure that will come across. In fact, I got a text message this morning from one of the soloists who has to back out. So now I have to find another guy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm already working on it. But so that's the kind of thing that I really enjoy. I enjoy, I tell people I've been a promoter, sales guy for a long time. It's just my nature. I talk and I build relationships, and I like to connect people. If I can connect musicians with somebody, and it's really very satisfying for me. So it's a good thing.
No, it's a very good thing, especially for a podcast. So.
Yeah. Did I talk enough? I mean, you ask somebody like, "Hey, tell me about yourself." It's like, well,
there you go.
I'll go on and I'll go on and on and on.
So do you really mean tell me about yourself?
Yeah, right.
Right. So tell me about your booking agency. What does that mean? How did you manage bands? How relationships work within that?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's two relationships that I have to foster. One is with the bands themselves and getting to know. I enjoy getting to know all the members of the bands I work with and talk to them. And since I'm a musician, I can talk music. If there's a drummer in one of the bands I work with, I always love to just like see what kind of rig he has and see, hey, when you did that, or where did you get, what kind of cymbals, whatever, just shop talk kind of a thing. I really enjoy that. And so there's that aspect of it, building the relationship with the bands and getting them to trust me, that I'm working for them, and I'm going to, get them a good gig, and I'm going to get them paid what I can. It's always a challenge. So the other side of the relationships are the venues and my other clients that call up from time to time saying, whatever it might be, I'm having a company event, and we want to, we want a duo, or we want a full band, or whatever. And so in those cases, I get to build relationship with that client, and hopefully next time they need somebody, they'll call me back. And that has happened. I mean, that works out really well. And so I provide a service that I feel requires a lot of follow-up and a lot of babysitting, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and I like doing that. I mean, with technology today that you shouldn't have any trouble doing it between what we have on the internet, calendars, just like following up emails. I mean, it's a great way to communicate and totally enjoy it. I mean, it's like, and sometimes something goes wrong or something's not, and I'm up for the challenge to fix it, figure out what to do, or something like that. And that usually is part of the situation also. And so it's fun. Yeah, I enjoy that. And, I get a typical agency commission when I work with bands, and most times, not every time. Sometimes I just let it go, depending on if I'm booking, say, for like a nonprofit agency. So they might call me and say, this is our budget, and it's like I just make I connect the artist with the client, and then kind of oversee what's going on, but I don't really get involved, and I let them so I don't put a lot of time into that, but I do make the connection, and I don't get compensation for that. So I'm doing a favor for both the musicians and for the nonprofit. So that's kind of it, and I'm always looking for new venues and trying to introduce bands to new venues, and sometimes people get back to you, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, that's a large thing, is getting back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you manage if something goes wrong between the venue or the band? How do you manage that?
Well, the first thing to do is deal with it as soon as you can. I mean, you don't want to yeah, right. It's like the band is going to be, thinks that they have to be there, start their set at 9, and then, a few days before, the guy, the venue says, oh no, it's an 8:00 start, or, that kind of thing. So, I found out the best thing for me to do is just figure out a solution and deal with it as soon as possible. I've never had any real disasters. I mean, sometimes weather plays a faction. If the band if it's an outdoor venue, and there's always that kind of a thing. But I've never had a situation where like the venue owner contacted and said these guys didn't show up or anything like that. So I really make sure, like, if there's somebody playing Friday, usually by Tuesday, I'm touching base with everybody. Said, hey, don't forget, you're expected, and tell the venue themselves that, hey, these guys are going to load in at like 6:00 or whatever it is that they, so everybody's reminded of what's coming up. But yeah, I mean, I haven't had too many problems. I had one problem where I didn't really confirm a gig with the band, and I told the band it was probably going to happen. The band showed up, and it wasn't happening. So that was a problem. But luckily, it was very local, and I think I made it up to the guy who I got crisscrossed with and so forth. So, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like if you pay a lot of attention and you pay attention to detail, you shouldn't have too many problems.
What are some of the tools? Because knowing musicians, it's like herding cats, right?
Yeah.
What are some advice that you can give to bands to help organize themselves, to help?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're a band, if you're like the contact for the band, you're the leader of the band, you have to know everybody in your band. Like, so some guys, there's always going to be one guy who's always late, or just, I forgot, I didn't do it. So you really have to, I mean, if you're the kind of band where everybody is really important to what the band is doing that night. I mean, sometimes, the guy can miss a gig and you can still do it depending on the band, but you really have to know your musicians. I mean, they can be great musicians, but if they're not dependable, and you're serious about getting out there and playing for people, and expanding what you're doing, you really have to manage that band as best you can. That's I'd say the best way to do it, and to watch those guys. And then when you perform, I mean, know your venue. I mean, if it's a late night gig at a bar and you want to sing a drinking song, no problem, that's fine. But
Right.
If you're playing for, I don't know, this is an extreme, if you're playing for a birthday party, and there are kids there, you don't want to talk, there's certain songs you wouldn't want. You have to just be aware of that stuff. And some guys, they just, oh yeah, we're going to do this song, and it's like, not necessarily appropriate for that particular event. And
Read the room, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
read the room, exactly. And and I try to give guys, the bands a heads up on who your audience is going to be, just so that they know what's expected of them and what's not expected of them. So I guess those are really important things. A band needs to know if they have to bring all their equipment or if there's sound provided. And I always give that information, but if sometimes it's happened where, oh, I didn't know we had to bring sound. Well, I mean, I told the guys, I told you had to bring sound, and there's no sound here. So you got to go back, get stressed, go pick up your stuff, bring it home, set it up, do your sound check and all that. And that creates a situation. So, I mean, I think that leads into just being prepared and getting there early so you can do your sound check the way you want to do it.
It's one thing I've learned. I always have my piano in my trunk anyway, just to be sure.
Yeah. And it's also for you. It's great because it's like, hey, I need you. Can you come out and do some songs with us? I mean, you can do it. I mean, if you have your rig with you all the time, it's fantastic.
I have it all the time. And even when I go out to gigs, some people are like, oh, hey, you're here. You want to come sit in? Yeah, 'cause that happens way more often than people would ever think. Especially if we're like good friends or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're all playing songs that we've played together. So they're like, "Oh, you want to come sit in?" And oftentimes the answer would be no. I didn't have my guitar or whatever.
Right.
But since I always have it with me,
yeah, I can do it.
Of course I can. Yeah.
And that's the kind of experience that for musicians I think is like so cool because we weren't expecting it. And it's like, can you sit in? Yeah, I can definitely do it. And then all of a sudden you're on. You thought you were going to be in the audience, but now you're on stage, and that's just such a it's such a it's a rush for a lot of musicians, I think. I mean, whenever I have a chance to sit in, I mean, as long as I know what's going on, I mean, I would I would definitely want to do it. And I can, I'll give you a real quick story about, we had my 50th high school reunion, 50 plus 2, because it was called off because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And this was about, 3-4 weeks ago. And two of the guys organized a reunion band of all guys in our high school who were in bands or who played together and so forth, and we had this reunion band, and we played like a 40-minute set of all songs back from our high school days, from like Steppenwolf and Santana, all these fantastic bands that used to come out in those days, and it was really a lot of fun. And we didn't get to practice. I mean, we just got up and did. I mean, there was a minimal practicing, but it was pretty much, here we go, we're just going to do it. And I played piano on that, and I played drums on a couple songs, and we had 3 drummers, and we would rotate. And it just, we pulled it off great. And the people who were in our class went crazy. I mean, they were dancing, and they had a great time. So that's the kind of thing, it's one of those, spur of the moment, let's just do it, and it's going to work. And it was very satisfying. So.
What do you think is most important to musicians that do want to like sit in on all that jazz? Do you think they should have a backlog of songs that they just know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if depending on who you're going to sit in with, you should be able to at least, like, if it's, hey, can you do a couple songs with us? Well, what are we going to do? That kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, if you have a good knowledge of what the band is about and ready to play, that would be helpful. And if you have a good ear and if you know the music, I mean, you can do. I know you, Corey, can do that kind of stuff, which is just a really fun thing, and it's a great thing. The other thing is when you do that, you're just helping out. There's always usually there's a front man who's the guy, and you're backing up, and but they appreciate that too. That you don't want to get up there and start going all like Alice Cooper if you're sitting in with him.
If you're sitting in, you're an accessory.
Yeah, and that's something that but that's a great way to make friends and to meet new guys and to maybe start another band that they might want to do, because there's all these guys. Everybody's got more than one band project going on.
Absolutely.
And that makes all the musicians who get to do that, I think it makes you better. Like in my situation with All Weather Band, it's a very formatted arrangements. So we practice a lot, and they come out really good, and they sound good. We have a good sound. Now the other band, Tropical Sunz, is more. They are arrangements, but it's more loose kind of a thing, and we practice, but we can pull it off, and it's a lot of fun. And I found that playing with that band, I'm not playing a drum kit. I'm playing a cajon and bongos and a foot tambourine and a little snare drum on the side. And it's like, so I'm using different percussive instruments than I would be with the other band. And doing that makes me a better timekeeper for the other band. So, because I don't know if any of my bandmates are listening, but I would be, you're slowing down, you're going too fast, that kind of stuff. So I really got to train myself on how to keep the groove going at where it's supposed to be. And so I think I've improved. I mean, the guys in my band tell me I have, so unless they're just fooling around with me, I don't know. But that's fun. Yeah. Again, it's another example of the more you do, I think the better you're going to get overall.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't practice something,
you got to practice.
You always got to practice.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me about the two bands, how they got started, what you guys do.
Yeah. Well, All Weather Band, again, it was a Craigslist meetup with myself and our lead singer, Anthony Markovich. He's like 6'8", so he makes a great front guy. Maybe 6'7". I don't know. He's a pretty tall guy anyway, but he plays acoustic and rhythm guitar, and he's a singer, a baritone. And so we just kind of got together and started finding some musicians that would do it. The idea was to do kind of like what we used to call outlaw country, and we got into that with some Grateful Dead type country songs, some Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, that sort of format. And
the good old country.
Yeah, but kind of like, with rock influence to it.
Right. Yeah.
Not the old, like Willie Nelson, for instance. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff that he did, and Johnny Cash. It's a lot of fun. So then the band has evolved. That's been around for, I think we're in our fourth year, maybe more. It's evolved into, we're still doing what we call the outlaw country stuff, but now we're doing some blue-eyed soul. We're doing a little more Grateful Dead. We have a new keyboard player who joined the band almost a year ago, who's really excellent, and he's got a Hammond organ. He's got the newest portable Hammond organ that there is, and it has like a simulated Leslie in it that's phenomenal. And he's really talented. He also sings. So with him, we're doing some Delbert McClinton, some Van Morrison, just different. So we've expanded into a different kind of situation where audiences, what they always tell us is like, wow, what a mix of songs. I mean, you're not just doing one song that sounds alike after. They're all different, really diverse set that we have. And audiences seem to really respond to it. We're not really, once in a while somebody will get up and dance, because we do play a couple of numbers that inspire people to get up and dance, but more of a, listening and eating dinner and drinking kind of a thing, and just appreciating the music. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work. We do 2-hour gigs, 3-hour gigs, and scheduling is always a challenge too. So because who's on vacation and who's there and blah, blah, blah. But we have a really good lineup. Our lead guitar player is Kirby Martzel, who some listeners might remember from the Susquehanna River Band, which was a gigantic country band back in the old, a few decade ago or so. And that was one of the bands we were talking about before, where they'd travel to a location and do a residency for like a week and a half or whatever, just stay there every night and play. And they'd pack these bars, and people would stay till 2 o'clock in the morning and then go to work the next day. Kind of thing.
Incredible.
So, but yeah, and the other band, Tropical Sunz, I said, is a real interesting group, we wear Hawaiian shirts when we go out, and we do some gimmicky, I wouldn't say gimmicky stuff, but we do a lot of traditional Hawaiian songs. We do pop songs that we kind of islandize, is a kind of way to put it, do a reggae version of it. We have a lot of fun. We have one guy from Lebanon, and the other 3 guys are from the Lancaster area, but it's really a lot of fun. Again, we do 2 or 3 hour set, and it's good. The one guy, one of our Chip plays ukulele, electric ukulele, so he does, that's the Hawaiian thing. Then we have an electric guitar, electric bass, and my percussion stuff that we talked about.
guy's gonna get a steel pan.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Or that would be cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
could do that.
that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, they were always our guitar player. His name is Mike Luckenbill, and he's pretty well known as a soloist. Does his own thing a lot of the time. His license plate, I think, is called Solo Man or something like that. But he brings in different instruments. He just brought this electronic. It looks like a recorder, but it's electronic. It's made by Korg. Korg, and it synthesized sounds of everything from a trumpet to a saxophone, and you just push the button, and you've got like a flute, or you have and he's been using that and it sounds like some guy stepped up and started playing the flute. I mean, it's really, and he can do. Yeah, it's
so cool.
Yeah, and he said it costs like $100. It's like technology wise, it's like, how do they do that for $100?
Yeah, for $100, right? Yeah,
I know. So, but yeah, so like we try different instruments and do different things that way. It's a lot of fun.
Do you have any gigs coming up?
For Tropical Sunz, we have this weekend we were busy. Friday night we played at a place up in Cornwall, which is called the Bluebird Inn. Really?
Oh yeah.
Great venue. I mean, a beautiful deck. The weather was nice. The restaurant is really nice. So we did that Friday night, and we did a 3-hour gig. Then Saturday we played at Cherry Crest Adventure Farm. It was kicked off the first gig there, and that was the first series of concerts there. That was a 3-hour gig. So by the end of that, we were pretty tired, all that kind of stuff. But and then Wednesday, the Tropical Sunz is playing up in Ephrata. It's a venue called the Mainspring Whistle Stop. It's right downtown Ephrata. It's a free community concert for people to come and just like bring your chair, and there's a food truck, and there's a beer guy selling brews and stuff like that there, and that's a fun place. I've played there before, and it's a lot of fun. So that's what's going on with Tropical Sunz. All Weather Band has a gig Saturday night up at in Bainbridge, a place called the Bainbridge Inn. It's a nice venue. It's a restaurant bar kind of thing. We've played there before. It's just north of Marietta. Nice. And typically All Weather Band gets around to we play at McCleary's, Stoner Grill, Telus. Telus is interesting because you start at 10:30 and you're done at 1:30
in the morning.
No, at night. Yeah, 10:30 p.m. Like on a Friday night in the front room there.
Really?
Yeah, and we did that once, and it's a long. I mean, that's 10:30 is pretty late start for me.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with you.
But the place was jumping. I mean, it was
of course, right?
I mean, it was just like people were going wild. So it was a lot of fun to play there. So we're playing there again in October. So we have a bunch of gigs lined up with All Weather Band. We're pretty regular, so it's a lot of fun.
And if you want to learn more about those bands, they have Facebook pages and all that stuff. That'll be in the description. Do they have websites as well? Or
we're just building a website for All Weather Band. You can go to Mastro Music to see all the information about the bands I represent, including All Weather Band. We have some videos up and just information about the band. But we were actually getting our website almost finished now. We'll be able to put that up.
Awesome.
And yeah.
So I'm curious, you've done a lot of marketing in the past. What are some of the marketing techniques that have been obsolete?
Obsolete?
That have become obsolete, yeah.
Well, print ads. I used to do that. I still do to a certain degree, but more for an organization that I'm a member of, and they ask anybody who could put an ad in to do it. It seems like the print media is kind of going away. I don't know if a lot of people might not realize that Lancaster County was like one of the biggest printing areas in the country.
Really?
There were printing plants all over the place, from mom and pops up to big printing plants that would publish print books, catalogs. I mean, massive amounts of paper and ink coming out of Lancaster County. And then I'd say in the last 20 years, I mean, the little mom and pops found that their business dried up. The internet kind of like really had a big effect on that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that I would say is the main thing, and there's just no reason for it. As far as I've never done any broadcast advertising or anything like that. So everything I do is pretty much social media, and that's that's just the way it is. You get followers. You always want to get followers. When you play out, you say, hey, please give us a like on your our Facebook page, and you can follow us and all that sort of thing. And it's that viral thing that just works, for a lot of bands and so forth. So. I was thinking about walking around downtown Lancaster with one of those sandwich boards, with the all-weather band. Hey, come sit. I'd say that's kind of obsolete. But
well, I don't know.
Hey, it might be a good gimmick.
Yeah, it's an incredible gimmick. Like stuff like that. That's what you have to do almost these days. Is be weird.
Yeah, you have to bang people over the head with something new because be a little out there. It's a good idea.
Yeah, that's how you're gonna get your people, because no one's gonna look. There's 1,000,005 bands. Why should I watch yours?
Right.
That's
a challenge. It really is. There are a lot of bands out there, and we've gotten All Weather Band just had some video production done, and we're waiting for the final product. We haven't seen it yet, but it's like I get a press kit from a band, and here's our video, and if it's more than 2 minutes long, I mean, even if it's a medley, I mean, people really just don't want to spend 2 minutes to watch it. They want to move on to the next post that they want to see. So it's tough, just to get people to take a listen and so forth. But if you're doing if I'm marketing to a community concert, like a lot of the communities have summer series concerts in all over the place, and they hire bands. It's a free concert for the community, kind of like what's going on up at Ephrata on Wednesday. With those, you really want to put your best foot forward, and you need good quality video because it's done by a committee. So one person I'm in charge of finding the bands, and then they bring it to a committee, and hopefully everybody in the committee kind of likes it, and and it goes through that way. So you really need to have a professional touch in those cases. If it's like iPhone videos, it's not. I mean, it's depending on what it is, but that's not really what you want. If you really want to look good, you have to have, pay some video guy, come and do the recording, video show or whatever in a studio, have them edit it in a good professional way, and have a really nice presentation that way. That I think is really what bands need.
So how does one set up for that? Do you have a gig, you contact the videographer, say, hey, come out here, film this for me, blah, blah, blah?
Well, I've done it two ways. That way, we just did that for the All Weather Band at our last gig at Stoner Grill. So he set up 2 stationary cameras pointing to the band at different parts of the band, and then he had his own camera, mobile, walking around doing videos. So he's able to edit all that stuff into it. So that's a live performance, which is really good because you get audience reaction. Mm-hmm. People are clapping, whatever they're doing, you get that, and that's you want to show that too. I've also done it. When I was working with the Cavern Club, they did a really nice set of videos down at a studio on King Street. It's called, the name escapes me right now, but they did. It was done in a recording studio, and it was set up real nice. And we had a guy come in and do that, and he mixed it all up real nice because it was done in the recording studio. So he got in the recording studio, he could use their mixing board to mix into the video somehow that they were doing. Yeah, it was not the Candy Factory, another place on King Street. Ben Roth, Ben Roth, he owns this little.
It's not the Kaleidoscope.
The Kaleidoscope. I'm sorry. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Thank you. That's where it is. It's a funny little place. You walk down this alley, and you go, how do you get it? Where are we? But it's a nice studio. Ben did a good job with that, and then so we had the video guy come in and do that. So there's 2 ways to do that. And that worked out pretty well for them. That got them a lot of work for just, hey, it's a medley of Beatles songs. You can't go wrong.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And it's to any band that wants to further their presence on social media, you have to get content.
Yeah.
Of yourself.
Yes, you got to get it out there, and you got to ask people to send it to your friends, share it, whatever, and all that.
And it might seem trite or it might seem scummy, but it's what you have to do.
It's what you got to do, right? You got to, right. You have to say, this is I don't know. I know what you mean. If it seems scummy, then it's you're not really into promoting. You've
Yeah.
got to do it. You've got
got
to be
to.
a little aggressive, but you don't have to be super aggressive. You
No,
just have
no,
to,
not at all.
yeah,
And it was kind of funny last night. The Big Boy Brass, they have their bucket that they go around, and oftentimes they have somebody else like they'll give the bucket go around. I did it this time.
I saw you.
Yeah,
I saw
because I was like, I love the Big Boy Brass,
Yeah.
and I want to help them.
yeah,
So I was going around tips.
yeah, yeah. No, that was
Stuff you
good.
have to
I
do,
mean,
yeah.
why not? I mean, and people were chasing you.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of people coming after, say, hey, because they did that kind of a show where people want to support them.
Yeah, and same thing with bands too. Like, if you're at your local bar or whatever, if it's not scummy to ask people to give you money if they're willing to give you money,
Right.
right? It's the people that just sit there and wait.
Right.
Right.
No, you're absolutely right. And most bands, they should bring a tip jar.
Mhm.
And there's no reason to say, hey, just to let you know, we have a tip jar up here if you like what we're doing. And there's always somebody that'll drop in a 5, a 10, or a 20, and you might end up with an extra $100.
Yeah.
Because compensation for bands, the venues have to, they have their own challenges and they want good music, but to be honest with you, I was probably, when I was in high school, I was getting paid not that much less than what bands are getting now, because it's just it's difficult for a lot of the venues. It's challenging.
And there's tight margins and
and just
ASCAP.
getting people to ASCAP and getting people to work for you is their other challenge, and their food costs are up. I mean, everything getting produce delivered has got to cost more because everything's so much more expensive, transportation. So I think the venues want to give, compensate the bands, and of course they usually have some sort of hospitality, some food and some drinks and stuff, but they encourage bands to have a tip jar and also sell merchandise, which is a great idea, great thing for you to do too. So you can always look at that sort of thing and try to increase what you're paying, what your kind of income you're making from your performances and so forth, which I think it makes you feel like somebody, if you get $100 in tips or whatever it is, I mean, you feel like, wow, somebody did like us. We're doing something right.
Yeah,
and that's really important for guys, for bands to do that.
Yeah, so no matter what, you should always be promoting yourself. Because that's the business. That's what you're there for.
Yeah.
You're there to get more followers. You're there to get more people listening to your music. Unless you're doing a different vision, which some people do, and I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a small time musician that wants to get more of a following, videotape yourself. Do that. That way you have something.
Right.
At least something to start with. And then advertise your social media. Make simple template graphic designs. This is what I do for the podcast. I have a template design and I just plug in the picture and change the wording.
That's it. And it's easy. It takes you hardly any time.
It takes me no time at all. Right. And it looks professional. Yeah. It's consistent.
Yeah. And
it's easy. It's really easy.
Yeah, you have a good template. Your post looks nice. It's the black. It's just a nice presentation for sure. Yeah.
And it's I just use Canva, which is free.
It's fantastic. Canva is the best thing ever for every band.
Yeah, Canva is amazing.
Yeah. If you're a band and you're trying to figure out your graphics and you want to make posts for every venue.
For free.
Yeah, for free. Canva. Canva. It's an app. You can do it online. It's a wonderful thing. It's really good. And the other part about bands promoting themselves well, if you want to go back to a venue, you want to show the booker that, hey man, the people stayed till the end of the show, that kind of thing, and they kept, they bought drinks and they bought food or whatever it is that they want, and you need that, and you need to show a following. You say, hey, I have a following. I have 20 people who are going to come because they like us, and that's 20 people is 20 people. I mean, that's so you need that reinforcement to getting future gigs. And
you can use it to justify a higher pay.
Yes, you can. Exactly.
So if you know that, I have like 1,000 following, and you know that you have at least 100 people that will come out.
Right.
You can say, I know I'm gonna fill 100 spots in this place. that's good. And if you know your people, you can estimate how many drinks they're gonna get.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And you're like, they're gonna buy 5 drinks each. That's 500 drinks. That's like a lot of money.
That's $5,000
Yeah,
right there.
right. It's a,
Yeah,
justify yourself
absolutely.
to get more more of a pay.
Yeah, and I think artists, musicians, whatever, have to get beyond that. Like, I'm embarrassed to promote, or it's not below. I don't really like to be the salesman kind of a
Right.
thing, and you have to do that.
You have to.
You got to do it. So
You don't have to be a snake oil
no,
salesman.
just be
Just take yourself at face value and say,
Right.
this is what I bring.
right.
This is what I deserve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right, 100%.
Yeah, and it's not egotistical at all.
Right.
It's just being real with yourself, and
Right.
because you're running a business.
You're running a business, yeah, and you probably started playing guitar when you were like 9, and
Yeah.
mom and dad got you lessons, and they paid for it as investment. How many guitars and amps have you bought? Cord cables, and mics, and all the stuff it all goes into the cost of getting out there,
And how much more do you want to invest in yourself in
Yeah.
the future?
Right, exactly, and you're always going to be doing that. So you're always going to be getting, I mean,
New
if you're a guitar
stuff,
player, you need strings or whatever.
You need strings.
You need stuff.
You need stuff.
Yeah.
If it rains, you need more stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
In an emergency.
Yeah.
That's another thing for musicians. Have an emergency fund.
Yeah, it's good if you can do that. Yeah, rainy day fun.
Rainy day fund.
Yeah.
What are some other good resources for musicians to use that want to just up their game a little bit in the marketing? We mentioned Canva. Is there anything else that you can recommend?
Well, let's see. There's a couple of really good websites that come out emails. One's called Indie. I don't have it at the top of my head, but they give great advice for bands on how to get gigs, how to promote themselves. I can
Go ahead. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit.
Okay, I'll get it on my. I just need my phone here.
So one of the few resources I've been using is Score is one.
Oh yeah.
They do free sorry, you do a discover call, and then they'll help you work out your business and start a plan. It will be mentored. They give you a mentor. Another one that is actually local is called Assets. They also do a free discovery call and a meeting with them and help you formulate a business plan. That's what I've been doing to better work my podcast.
Yeah, I've done work with Score also when I first started out, and just to see what they had, what they could give me, and it was definitely worthwhile. It's free, and you can learn a lot of pretty interesting things. So I would recommend signing up for, if I can get my glasses on with this, my headphones, sorry. It's called Indie on the Move, INDIE on the Move. And they send out emails every week and with great subjects. Last one was 10 Ways to Fail as an Independent Artist. So it gives you advice on things to do and things not to do. So that's one that I think is really interesting. And there's also an email that comes out daily. It's called Biz News PA, and you can subscribe to it. It's free, and this gentleman writes it every day and sends it out at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And it says, I mean, it's not necessarily pertaining only to music. It's about everything, commercial, industrial, factories, real estate development. But sometimes they talk about a new venue, whether it's Hershey or something else like that, So it's just good to keep, you don't have to even read the whole thing. I mean, only if it's of interest to you that day. But I find it very helpful in terms of keeping in touch with the local business scene, because nobody's doing it. Lancaster newspaper does very little with that. Years ago, they had a whole page, Business Monday, and it was all about local business. And they've cut. That was a while back. That used to be very interesting, and there are always leads in there for whatever business you're in. So it's a good source also. So, but Indie on the Move is specifically for musicians, what to get out there. So,
and also YouTube is free as well.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Yeah,
it's an easy one for sure.
Yeah,
you just have to know what to look up.
Yeah, you just have to. And there's you can my son-in-law calls it YouTube University, because you
Yeah.
go there, figure out how to fix anything, how to do anything. You know,
literally anything.
yeah, you need to
There's a
fix this
YouTube video.
microphone. There's a guy who did a video on that. So,
Right.
yeah.
So we're kind of running out of time. I have some general questions that I like to ask everybody. So, what's the best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you?
Wow. Let's see. I would say my dad always was, since he was a musician and he had bands and he had little trios. He was always encouraging me to get out and promote any music I was doing, because that's what he did. He was like a band leader, and he would do his own gigging and he'd do his own booking and set the gigs. He'd get his own band, whether it was a 10-piece orchestra or a trio or whatever it was. He was a really interesting guy. I mean, he learned, his main instrument was clarinet, and when he was about 50, he picked up the bassoon, and he became really, really good at bassoon. I mean, classically, he just taught himself how to play the bassoon, which is a really difficult
50, yeah,
a difficult instrument to learn any time in your life. It's got
Right,
two
yeah.
reeds, and
Two reeds, yeah.
so, but he would practice like every day, up until he was in his 80s, and but he would always, before he passed away, I was told him what I was doing with Mastro music, and he was just like so excited. He says, "This is what you got to do. You got to keep doing this and all that." And so when I have success with Mastro music, I always, I think of his name was Pensiero, and I always think of him and saying, "Thanks, Dad." So he gave me a lot of good encouragement in terms of getting the music out there.
So, what is one of the most memorable lessons you've learned?
Well, be prepared when you're going to make any kind of presentation. If you're going out to talk to somebody in person, I mean, a lot of times it's emails and it's texting, and you can always, if you want to make an adjustment, you can always email again and say, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this." But if you happen to be making having a one-on-one meeting, and you're going to be talking to somebody, you need to be prepared with your material and to answer as many questions as you can, and ask questions like, what is it that you're looking for? What do you expect from a band? That kind of thing. So, when it's a one-on-one thing, I think that's really important and it's a great way to build relationships with people. Like, a lot of my interaction is through email or texting, but then when I do get a chance to meet my contact in person, it's like you really want to be on your game and like say thanks for, thank you, but and then be prepared to answer any questions, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I can't mention this enough. Be clear and with your intentions too.
Right.
Because you mentioned what are you expecting from the band? That is something that you shouldn't go in blind.
Right.
Right. You should ask, okay, what's the music that you play regularly on the radio, or what's
Right.
the music that because having been a DJ, I know the venue is also having that relationship with the venue is very important.
Right.
More so.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that are going to hire you again.
Right.
And they might if you don't do a good job, your word gets around very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. So you find out what the expectations are, and you deliver.
And you deliver.
You do, and that's I give you a really quick example. I'm working with another band out of New Jersey as a independent agent. I booked them in Pennsylvania. They're called the Black Ties. They can do a Beatle thing, but they can also do like a 60s and 70s. Really, really fantastic musicians, and they put on a great show. So they'll do a gig. I get them a lot of work here in Pennsylvania, but they're busy almost every week. But they'll play at Stoner Grill and do a wide variety of stuff, and people respond big time. Now, they played a couple of weeks ago. They played up at Lititz Historical Association or Society, and they were playing for an hour and a half, and they requested just Beatles, and that's what they did. They do Beatles fantastically. Because I kind of got involved with them after the Cavern Club went away. I knew that there was a big market for Beatle tribute type stuff. So the guy I talked to, the booker, whose also name is Corey, he said, "No, we just want Beatles," and I told that to the band, and they did nothing. They did Beatles. And they did a couple of, but they also did Beatles did covers of Chuck Berry songs and a couple like couple other ones, and they did those too. But they did the Beatles versions of those things. So that's really important, because if they didn't do all Beatles, I mean, the guy would have come to me, and blah, 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 sort of thing.
So there's one story from my aunt. She's a gigantic. I can't remember which way it goes, but she was either a gigantic Journey fan or Eagles fan. I can't remember which. I think it's Journey. So for her wedding day, she just wanted nothing but that one particular band.
Wow! Holy cow!
And the bride is the leader of the wedding, right?
Yeah, that's kind of who you want to please.
But the DJ played the opposite.
Oh man, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so he got. I'm sure.
Why didn't he? Why? Yeah. Why would you not?
Why would you not?
Right. I mean, you're being paid. You go to the store and you order a sandwich and you want ham and cheese. The guy gives you a tuna fish. It's like, that's not what I want.
Especially as like a DJ, right?
Yeah.
when you don't have to perform those music.
Yeah. It's not that. And it's like you have all the music. I mean,
it's right there.
Right.
And it's not like Journey has a lackluster catalog of music.
Absolutely not. You can easily fill up a wedding reception with Journey. Yeah.
So make sure your intentions are clear and deliver on those intentions
definitely.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because people will remember the bad time over the good time.
You just make one mistake and that's what they remember. You know? Not all the necessary great things you did. So yeah, that's just the way it is. People, that's what stands out with people.
So what is one thing that you know now that you wish you had known when you first started?
Good question. You mean when I first started, like just
music,
playing,
marketing?
Music? Yeah. Well, you never, when you're building relationships, be careful of your style of sense of humor.
Yes,
because you can say something, and
it will not be right.
Right, and it'd be like, well, wait a minute, and then that person might have an idea of what a stereotype that it might be the opposite of what you are, or like, and you don't want to make that impression. So I would say hold off on joking until the other person starts joking around and you get a feeling with it. Because I have a sense of humor and I love making people laugh. Just who doesn't like to laugh?
Yeah.
So that's just something you want to be careful with, and especially in today's world, it's very very diversified. Everybody in the music world, even the local music world, every part of the population that's out there is part of that's going to be in people you deal with. Mm-hmm. In bands or in venue owners, whatever it might be. I mean, you don't know what people are, so you have to be, sensitive. You just have to be smart, and no cracking jokes that that would just
right time, right place,
smart.
Right?
Yeah, right. So you got to be smart about that.
What is one of mistakes that you have seen or that you have perhaps made, and how can we prevent that for future bands and future generations?
Well, kind of goes back to what we said in terms of expectations for a band. You don't want to play too loud. I mean, a lot of bands just have a knack of getting louder and louder and louder. And we, in All Weather Band, we've talked about it a number of times. And as the drummer, many times I'm to blame. If I'm getting louder, everybody's going to get louder. So part of my journey of being a better drummer is using dynamics and being aware of your volume. And of course, you have to be aware, make sure your timing is right. I mean, you got to be time. It's one of the hardest things for me is to play fast and not loud.
Oh yeah.
And then the opposite.
Yeah,
if it's a slow song, you have to use the dynamics, and that really is a roadmap for that song for the band, because if you're playing loud, as I said, everybody's going to play loud. And then what happens is, like, the people in the audience are annoyed because it's too loud. They want to talk. And the venue owner is not going to be happy with you. He's going to have to keep coming. You don't want the guy to keep coming in and telling you to keep it down, guys.
A good night is where you never see the venue owner.
Right. And that means they're happy. Nobody's complaining. So I think those are things that are always good lessons for bands and musicians to learn.
What is one of the funny? What was a time where something really, really funny happened, or one of the worst moments ever happened?
Well, okay. I have something. I probably won't go into that one, but I will because it's why not. So when I was in high school, I had a summer gig at a club, and we played there during the summer. We played there on Wednesday night and Friday night and Saturday night. So Friday night and Saturday night we could leave our gear there, and then but Wednesday, we had to load in and all that stuff. But it was kind of a slimy place, so they had twin go-go girls. They were twins with bleach blonde hair, and they wore bikinis. And I'm talking 1969, 1970, and in those days, I guess that stuff. So I guess those kinds of clubs still exist, but it was just a weird scene. I mean, there were fights, and they were like, the girls were really flirty, and you never. I was 18 years old. I mean, I was 17
Right.
years old. I wasn't even a.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't even supposed to be playing in this place. Although the drinking age in New York at the time was 18, so you could get away with it. But it was like it was a rough crowd, and it was like you just never knew. You had to always kind of like be aware of what was going on. And the girls were they were really nice people, but they got, sometimes they just get a little carried away and act up and so forth. So I guess that was just kind of like a more of a learning thing where it's like, okay, this stuff can happen. You got to be careful. Just like, watch out. Somebody's going to start a fight over a dancer or something like that. And you just
Get out of the way.
Get out of the way, and just like hopefully your bottle doesn't come flying your way or something like that.
Duck.
Like the Blues Brothers, that famous scene
yeah.
of the Blues Brothers where they're behind the fence and everybody's throwing beer bottles at them, But yeah, that's and as far as what I find funny is I love it when there's a family at a show and they bring one of their little kids, like a little toddler or 2, 3, 4-year-old walking by, and they just stop and stare at the band, kind of a thing, and they're just like, they're just like, what's going, and it's like maybe it's the first time they ever saw somebody actually playing, an instrument in front of people and so forth. So, and that's all. I always get a kick out of that, and I always say, well, that kid's probably going to buy a piano. His parents going to get piano lessons or guitar lessons or something like that someday.
That kid's been marked.
Yeah, yes, he has been marked. So. But that's and the kids always look at it and they smile, and then you smile, you get to wave back, and they start dancing, and it's always it's always a treat to see that. I like that. So,
Right, it's been a lot of fun.
yeah, very interesting.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at pmastromusic at gmail.com, or my website is pmastro.com. It's pmastromusic.com. There is a mastromusic.com, and when I built the website, Mastro Music is a drum teacher. I don't know, he's in Indiana or somewhere like that. So I had P Mastro. So on pmastromusic.com, and you can see, you can contact me there. You can see some of the bands I'm working with there. I have some nice videos, some nice, really great local talent, and it's just that's the best way to get a hold of me.
With all that said, this has been the Story Podcast. If you want to follow us, you can search up The Story Corey Rosen. That's CoryRosen. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you do social media. We are there. You can find us there. Upcoming guests we have tomorrow. We have Heather Grayberg, which is a good friend of mine. She's the CEO of a theater company over in Coatesville. So I'm really excited to talk to her, how she started her business. She started it during the pandemic, of all times.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really excited to hear about all the challenges that came up with, and everything about that. Wednesday, we have a guest called Stephanie Grace. She is a country singer. She's been in Nashville. She's opened up for Taylor Swift before, and so I'm really excited to talk about her. She's from Pottstown. And then the day after that, we have Nick DeSanto, the very Lancaster's own one-man band.
Yeah.
Awesome dude. I'm really excited to talk to him about how one creates a one-man band kit,
Yeah, he's something to see. I've seen him before, and it's like, wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
So if you want to check that out, you can check us out on all those places. With all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful. Before I go, if you really want to support us, we have merchandise to sell. We have stickers, online, and we have shirts and hoodies with the first 50 guests on the back, and those will be our limited time offer. You have until September to put your order in and have it secured. Otherwise, it's first come, first serve. They come in October. With all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.